Welcome to A Woman's Brew, where women talk about beer. Today, we're interrupting your normally scheduled programming with our first news episode of 2025. I'm Joanne, and this is Tori.
Hello, hello.
And we're two beer-loving women on a mission to get more people drinking and talking about great beer. Come join us! In the newsroom today,
I'm gonna caveat this as well with I've picked one fun article, or it's not really fun, fun's not the right word, but one that I just thought was weird, and that's probably gonna take up 30 seconds of conversation, and then two really infuriating ones that are definitely more, I think, probably more politically charged. But I was yours are probably all really specifically beer, very really interesting news. Mine are I've picked some really polarizing things today.
I went through these could be good for people who are setting goals or looking towards the beginning of 2025, because we're still at the beginning of 2025.
Oh, that's so much kind of, maybe we'll pepper them out through, we'll disperse them so that I can be angry and then you can follow it up with something nice. Something nice. Now let's look optimistic. I think that will be good, because
I did consider some hop news. And there was one where it was the endangered.
Oh, Dr. Doom and Gloom.
Yeah, it's not me. Someone else was reporting on what hops they were putting on their list of what they considered endangered hops.
Okay.
So I can chuck that in there as well.
Well, there we go. Yeah, no, that's good. A little off the cuff of I read this and this was good. I mean, mine are sort of, like I said, they are. I feel like mine are potentially polarizing things. We tend to try to be let's maybe not talk about that, but I was I'll talk about it because it's annoying me this week. So it will definitely date this, but I will caveat as well, the ones that I picked, I've tried to pick ones where it's this is the news article, but behind the news article there's more that I want to talk about with it. Okay. So while it might date it in terms of if somebody listens to this in a year's time, they'll be whoa, wild, they'll get to see how it all develops. However, I think the overall conversation and why I picked these is probably more important to me, and that's why I picked them.
Okay.
And then just the one absolutely outrageous one that I've been holding on to since 2024.
Mine are just proper fluffy then compared to that.
I've got the hard-hitting news, and you're today the dogs have a dog show pageant.
Yes. And in other news,
you're today it's the Halloween parade.
That's me. I'm going to be the happy one for a change.
I know normally, well, I don't know. No, this is normally the way it is, to be fair. I think I'm not normally the happy one anyways at the best of times. But you're more doom and gloom, and I'm more I agree. But there's one of us being happy and positive today, so that marks a change. What are you drinking?
So I am starting off with an alcohol-free beer. It's dry. I mean, I'm not doing dry January.
It's dry, and then you and PG, they were I'm not doing
dry January. That's time. This is called Good News by Siberia, who are from the Czech Republic. Is an alcohol-free mango and passion fruit sour ale. Look at it. It looks like
lovely.
Fruit juice. It's lovely. It's really lovely.
It's giving me those Cloud Order soda vibes where it looks
it's
juicy.
It's proper juicy. It just smells like fruit juice. It's absolutely beautiful. I'm enjoying it. In fact, I'm gonna have to get another beer fairly soon because I've been sipping on this while we were getting ready. And considering it is a massive can, there's not a lot left of it. What are you drinking?
I was waiting for you to go, and this is from Siberian in Siberia.
No.
And then I was you really managed to get something super remote and niche. I mean, and then you were the Czech part, and I was okay, fine.
I was thinking about that on the way up here, and I was
very misleading name.
That Siberia is actually from the Czech Republic.
Yeah, to be fair, you didn't read it Siberia. You were it's Siberia. Sorry. And I was thinking you would go from Siberia, and I was that's really niche. The dry January thing, before I say what I'm drinking, the dry January thing is a really interesting topic. I've purposely kind of steered away from any of those news articles I don't know why. I just felt I couldn't find a news article that really did it, but there's lots of conversations around dry January, and I've managed to change some people's minds on dry January, because I've been saying to them, with dry January, look, if it's for health reasons and you want to do it, like, you don't need someone to tell you to do a month without drinking if that's what you need, or more than a month without drinking if that's what you need. And I was like, however, don't just do dry January because you feel like there's that peer pressure to do that, because you go, oh, I'll be healthy. It's healthy. So I was like, number one, it doesn't feel like having 1 month of being super, super healthy, if you're just going to revert back in February, is necessarily the healthiest thing for you or your body or your mental health or any of that. Like, if you're just going to kind of yo-yo back, probably not the healthiest. And number two, like, for me, at least the way I approach it, it's more about moderation. Like, in line with point number one, it's more about moderation. I was like, and number three, you like these breweries that you love. If you're not there supporting them, even if it is buying non-alcoholic beer, because what I think a lot of people do is they go, it's dry January, and they don't even think to go to breweries to buy non-alcoholic beer. Like, I'll go to the supermarket and I'll get these non-alcoholic beers. It's like, if you're not going out to places, you're not going out to pubs, restaurants, bars, whatever, because you're like, well, I don't have good options there or whatever. Like, that is really hurting. That, like, January, I found out today when I was trying to calculate how long till payday. January is long.
January is always such a long month.
It's never ended. Yeah. That's a long month. And you have to think, people probably aren't buying necessarily as much towards the end of December because of the holidays. So they'll do all their shopping and beer buying up until a certain point, and then it quiets down for everyone. And then to go into like what feels like the longest month ever, with like people being like, well, I can't buy if I'm not buying alcohol to consume right now. Yeah, I managed to change some people's mind. They've told me. They were like, I actually thought on what you said. And I've decided, I just need to change my approach. And I was like, oh.
Small steps, they say, isn't it? It's like, change like one thing. Yeah. So like, maybe don't drink on a Monday.
I said, like, just think
drink
about.
on a weekday.
Yeah, I was like, weekend. Think about, I'm not telling you what to do, because if it were, I'd also be the person telling you don't do what someone tells you to do. But I was like, just have a think about it. And like, then if you go, yeah, this is for me and I have these reasons why I'm doing it, great. But like, also have, think about the bigger impact on that, or like, what is in your control? And you could go, I don't want to drink alcohol, I want to drink non-alcoholic, or what can you buy something else from these businesses that you like, instead of just going teetotal for a month and then going absolutely ham on February 1st. Because that is what some people are like, I'm drinking down, and then Feb 1st comes and they're like, bring out the stouts. And you're like, okay. Not the healthiest, but fine.
Yes.
Yeah, anyways, off my soapbox now. What I am drinking is the Elusive and Sunken Knave collaboration, Overboard.
Oh,
and that's really...
I've got that in my fridge.
Wow.
Is it good?
It is nice. It is this... I'll show you what it looks like. It's quite dark.
Yes.
Very, very dark. Very dark brown. It's really nice. It's not too... 6%, so it's all right. But, yeah, it's quite... I've only had a few sips of it. There's, like, these dried fruit sort of, like, notes on the nose, and pretty good. I picked it because I thought it went off in December. Its best before didn't go off. It best before at the end of December, and I was like, I really want to try. I've been saving it for the right moment, and then the right moment just like didn't appear, and then I was like, well, I want to stick to my New Year's resolution. My New Year's goals, I should say. I refuse to call them resolutions. I'm a habit.
There you go. All right, we're going to hear one of your doom and gloom stories first.
Yeah, I guess this is the thing. Do you want me to end with my just weird one, or do you want me to start with my weird one?
Well, weird is your weird one.
I mean, it's just not the most update. Should I end with that one? Because that one's like it's a news article from April of 2024. But I've been holding on to it for so long, just because I needed to talk to someone besides Rick about it. He's the one that found it and sent it to me, and I went, that is wild. I'm going to save this, and then it never happened. Right, so I guess the first one I will talk about is I feel like it is kind of all over Facebook feeds the last few weeks. I mean, there's two things that have been all over Facebook feeds the last few weeks, but my first one is about James Watt from Brewdog. And he made a video with his fiance talking about how he thinks, and I quote, the whole concept of work-life balance was invented by people who hate the work that they do. If you love what you do, you need work-life balance. You don't need work-life balance. You need work-life integration. He then, from what I saw in the comments of the now deleted Instagram video, he kind of doubled down in those comments and suggested that it was somehow promoting a culture of working really hard. Screenshots were shared, which I can't verify, so I say this with a pinch of salt, but because obviously the post doesn't exist anymore. But basically, he said about how he's, if extolling the virtues of hard work, that's what he's doing, and that working hard might not be for everyone, but loads of people work really hard at whatever they do, and just basically kind of tying in this idea that, well, if you're a hard worker, you don't need work-life balance, you need work-life integration. And so I kind of wanted to talk about this, not because what he said, not because I want to talk about the news article, it was more kind of around this concept of like work-life balance versus work-life integration. Now, my initial thoughts on this is like, the only thing I'll say is to defend him at any point in this, because I want to be fair. I want to try and be as unbiased as possible. So across everything, I watched the video, I've read articles, I've seen people's comments, like all that. And people have been absolutely bullying him, which is what he's been focusing on lately, is the bullying more than anything else. Than anything. I don't endorse that by any means. But the one thing I will kind of support him on in that regard is like, I think a lot of these articles reporting on it kind of are taking pieces of it out of context. Like, so when they like all the headlines are saying like, he says we don't need work-life balance, and it's like, it's not quite what he said. It is what he said, but like they remove the point of which he said, if you love what you do, then it's work-life integration. I still don't agree with that. However, I will say like some of it's taken out of context, but to me, the statement itself comes across as tone deaf. I think it's really easy for an entrepreneur to say, an entrepreneur who has a really quote unquote interesting job, who's married to another business or is engaged to another business owner that has a job that they are very passionate about.
And people who have significant amounts of money, therefore, can
own private jets.
As they please.
100%. Like that's what I was like, I will give him the benefit of the doubt to say like, maybe people are not fully quoting him on some of that. That being said, I don't think the full quote necessarily makes it better. And for me, his doubling down on it was wild. And then instead of being like, yeah, okay, maybe some of this sounded tone deaf, he's doubled down on it and then chosen to go, well, people are bullying me and that's not okay. Let me give some clarifications, but none of this warrants being bullied, which I don't disagree with. But like, that's the point of which he chose to be like, yeah, okay, maybe I need to provide some additional context over what I said. Have you heard about this story?
Yeah, I've heard about it. I feel like we're getting to a point in the world where we are recognizing mental health and how we have to support it. And yeah, we all need to think about our mental health. Yes, working hard is important, and trying to find a job that you love is a good way to go, but that doesn't work. That doesn't happen for everybody. Sometimes you've got to work to pay the bills, because that's how life works. And you shouldn't have to work every hour of every day to be able to make ends meet. That's not, like, it doesn't work like that. That's not healthy. You do need to have breaks. You do need to have time off. And we are at a point where we have worked out that actually, this isn't working small children in the cotton mills every hour of every day, working people until they die. That's not how life should be. So you do need a work and a life balance. Like, we're working, I had a tutor at college who was always like, we're training you to work to live, not live to work. Like, that work there is to support us living and being able to, pay our bills. But then we should also have time to be able to look after yourselves. If you enjoy what you do and that is what restores you, cool. But that's not true of everybody. So you can't paint everybody's reality with your brush.
It's I think the thing is like his idea, what I gather his idea of like work-life integration sounds like it is. It's like, well, effectively, in a way, because the way that him and his fiance were talking about it, it was more, it sounds more like what they really mean is more like flexible working, where it's like sometimes in the evening they come up with ideas and they're like, oh, actually, these would be really good things. Or I need to work on this now because this is when my brain is most productive. But like, I don't necessarily know if I feel that I believe, and this is, I don't know their life, I don't know their live story. Maybe they do, but I don't feel I believe that they sit there and work from 8:30 until 5 o'clock with a 1 hour lunch break, the same way many other people do. I'm not saying obviously not everybody works like that, but what I mean is like an average, 9 to 5. I don't think they sit in an office doing a typical 9 to 5 with a 1 hour lunch. And then they go home in the evening and go, I want to keep, I keep working because I'm so passionate about what I do. I don't need to have a break from that. What I think is probably more likely the reality, seeing the type of stuff that he posts, seeing the type of stuff that, she posts with him in it, is that they are doing more flexible working. So that allows for that work-life integration to happen. I personally found it quite like hypocritical because I was like, you're basically telling your staff like, well, you should live to work for me. Like, and if you're not doing that because I don't pay you enough, I don't pay you a living wage, whatever. If I don't pay you enough, that's a reflection on you and your work ethic. Like, that's what really pissed me off about this was the conversation. For me, this was all about the conversation of work-life balance versus work and life integration. Equaling, are you a hard worker? What is your work ethic like? Yes or no? That really wound me up.
It's putting people's value into how much are they willing to invest in their work time, which isn't okay. And this is not a new concept from James Watt. Like,
no.
This is,
they need to take his LinkedIn away. They need to take his Instagram away.
He's using LinkedIn. He's using his jargony buzzwords to come up with something that he thinks is new. But he's always treated his staff like this. Let's go back to the these people couldn't hack it, so that's why they had to leave Brewdog. Like, he's always treated his staff this way.
But he doesn't treat everybody. So this is the thing. I don't feel like everyone's had that same experience across the board because they don't have like these standards in place. So like some people, especially if they're working in the way that he wants them to work, wildly successful, happy, and they will make Brewdog, they will have work-life integration because that's where their friends are. That's what they like to go in. They like to stay there. They like to hang out there. If you haven't been treated quite the same or have had that same experience, all of a sudden your work ethic is in question. This is a fast-paced work environment. This is the same of like a lot of companies. Like if you can't work in a fast-paced work environment, that is you. That's not anything else. Like, again, I'm not saying this is something that Brewdog has said, but this is what you get taught in lots of like trainings, is like people will tell you, oh yeah, you need to keep up the fast-paced work environment. If you can't do that, that's on you and that's your fault because you can't fit in with the culture. And it's like, well, no, I'm so grateful that where I work, our motto is like happy to go into work, happy to go home again. Like we all are friends, like we all like going to work events. We like hanging out together. We like doing that. We like working hours. And then we like being like, it's the end of the day now. I've got stuff to do. Bye. And then logging off.
Same. I work for a company who value work-life balance and making sure that we are looking after ourselves. If you're not looking after yourself, if your mental health isn't right, if you're not recharging appropriately when you need to, you're not at the top of your game.
You're going to get burnout.
You're going to get burnout, and then you're no good to anybody.
But the difference is
recharging times.
He can have he can avoid burnout, and I'm not saying I'm not going to speak for him and his lived experience, but like my feeling on the matter is like he can avoid burnout because he can choose. He's his own boss. He owns however many different companies. He's got investments in everywhere. Like he can just choose one day of like, I'm feeling particularly tired today. I'm not feeling the most productive. Like, he can decide how he wants to work and the manner in which he wants to work. And it's just, for me, there was something about somebody that owns and has such a stake in other people's livelihoods to be promoting that kind of culture. Like, to me, was just, and then in his LinkedIn post, because I read his LinkedIn post, and it was just, I deleted the original video, but this is the video that I posted on Instagram. When I posted this back here on LinkedIn, I got wild, amazing reviews. And I was like, yeah, but that's because the average human being working the jobs that are probably the most impacted by this work-life balance thing, think your hospitalities, think, service industries, like, they're the people that are probably getting hit in the hardest by some of this work-life balance stuff, or just the middlemen. Like, the people that are on LinkedIn that are really engaging with some of this stuff I think it can be an echo chamber, and those tend to be the people that agree with you. So he's like, but I got wild reviews on this, so I don't understand why I put it
his
on
views
Instagram.
Are thriving on Instagram. His views are thriving on LinkedIn because he's in an echo chamber of people who work in a similar way to him.
Yeah, and they're like completely agree. And I just thought that was insane. And I just wanted to say, like, I think that there's a point where you can love your job and want to go above and beyond your job, and you want to integrate it in with your life, and like, that's fine. Like, for some people, that's fine. Like, if you really are you have to be doing a particular type of job and a particular type of role, I think, for it to lend itself better to that. And there's nothing wrong with that, especially if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a business owner, entrepreneur, like, absolutely. Sometimes, even if you don't want it to be integrated in your life, if you're a small business owner, it is integrated in your life, whether you like it or not. And he's just put such like a positive spin on it. Like, he's like, no, let's not call it, needing like a lack of work-life balance. Let's just say you don't need that. It's work-life integration. But like, what about that, talking about in brewing terms, what about that small independent brewery that every sale counts, and they can't go home and not think about what's going to happen, and they don't have enough staff members to do all the things. They have this work-life integration, but it doesn't have this lovely silver lining to it that he's kind of promoting and making it out to be. It's like, if you're in a castle, can you really be like, how much can you really speak to the every average day person? And for me, overall, it felt tone deaf, and I really wanted to call it out, less because of it being him and whatever, more because the fact that I was like, I personally think work-life balance is incredibly important, even when you do love your job.
Yeah, same. I absolutely love my job. I work long hours on my job sometimes. I work weekends on my job sometimes, because that's what my job requires.
You get to do fun stuff sometimes as well, but that doesn't mean that you're like integrated.
That doesn't mean I'm not going to be like, and here are my days back because I worked a weekend. I need that time to recharge, to be at the top of my game, to be able to continue to do that level of work.
If only we could all have a job that would allow us to basically do our hobbies and interests all the time, full time, and get paid for it. So if you want to help that, you can go find our coffee, and then we could have work-life integration.
Yeah, we can have work-life integration. I am a night person. Like, I would prefer it.
Same.
If I didn't have to get up early in the morning and I could work through at night, right? We've given these day people all of the power, and I don't think it's right.
Let's reclaim from the day people. Right? It is funny.
Day people.
I'm just like, when you walk around a city centre, you just see like so many people out and about doing the thing. You're just like, oh, day people. Like, that's just how I feel. I'm like, I'm a night people.
I've had to train myself to be a day person, and I don't like it.
I hate
Gordon is a morning person.
Oh God, check his hard drive.
It's horrible. Like, he'll quite happily get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go to the gym.
That's
but then
sadistic.
he's in bed by 10, and I'm like, that's when I'm productive. But that's not when the things are happening that I need to be doing.
Yeah.
So I've had to train myself to be a day person. Is this not the similar thing that, like, I might be a night person, but I've got to be a day person because that's how it works. Like, you've got to work hard. Yeah, you've got to work on these things. But also, let's have a weekend so that we can...
I think it's not even, like, the thing that made me more angry than even just that work-life, like, this idea that, we shouldn't need work-life balance. If you love your job, you shouldn't need it. Like, you can love your job and still need it. But equally, the job you love might be unattainable for you. But it seems like from the comments that I've seen him make, like, that's not an option because it worked for me. Like, because he's like, because I just put in the hard work and I grafted and I got to where I was, anyone can do that. And it's like, that's not
necessarily
the reality of life.
Yeah.
Like, you know how when you're a kid, people teach you, like, you can be anything you want when you grow up. Like, I'm not being funny. I was never going to be an astronaut. Not that that's ever what I wanted to be. But you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
sometimes we got to tell people, like, yeah, that's cool that you want to be an astronaut and you should strive for that. Like, sometimes you should still strive for it.
Yeah.
But the reality is, you know,
Sometimes
that
it's not gonna happen.
may not be possible.
Yeah.
But you know, still encouraging everything. I feel like in his mind, it's just like but if you want to do that thing and you want to do that thing bad enough, no matter how lofty that goal is, like, you just do it. It doesn't matter if it's like 0.1% of the population do it. Well, that'll be you if you just...
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what situation you're born into or anything else. Like, yeah, I don't know. It just made me angry that he was equating, like, hard work.
Right.
It got me riled up. I was like, just because you want a good mental health brain break does not mean that you're not a hard worker.
And then is he insinuating that people that haven't got to where they want to be for whatever reason
haven't worked hard enough? And that's what it sounds
that's not
like.
how it works.
That's what it feels like. It feels like he's just like, if you wanted to, you know, be that NASA trained astronaut, even though you don't even live in the US, if you really cared and you worked hard enough, you would have been that NASA trained astronaut. And it's like, yeah, I don't know if that's really quite how it works. But yeah, that's my article. That's my first angering article out of the way. So do you want to give us your dog show fluff piece, please?
Yes.
Calm me down. Get my blood pressure down. My watch is going to go off in a minute.
I thought this would be useful, might be useful to people to pay attention to in 2025. 750 Daily, which is the business and culture of drinks blog, has put up the 6 beer industry trends to watch in 2025.
Ooh.
Some of these I think are obvious. I don't know if there's anything in here that particularly made me go, oh. But there are 6 different ones, so let's go.
It'll be interesting to see, because Vine Pair, I think it was, asked...
Have they done theirs?
No,
as well?
Hop Culture. I think Hop Culture asked, what do you think the biggest trends will be? And I had responded to that. And I'm interested to see if anything that I just went, yeah, that makes sense. I'll just say that uneducatedly, just say it. If any of them have come up on this, because I'll be like, oh, maybe I actually did know.
I mean, I feel like they're quite, they make sense. I was like, yeah, I saw that coming. This is also quite American focused. So they've spoken to like American breweries and stuff about this. So be aware of that while we're going through. So number 1, breweries will swap extremes for approachability. So apparently the novelty and excess fueled by craft beer rise is at its breaking point. So gimmicky, creative beers are on the outs, and more approachable and moderate strength type beers are on the in. Quite interestingly, they spoke to Devil's Backbone Brewery in Roseland, Virginia.
Interesting.
And they are moving away from trendy beers to quality and basic drinkability. And one of the beers that they cited that they're doing this with is their Vienna Lager. Delightful. But I quite enjoyed...
You were like, check, that's a good one.
Thank you. I will. Thank you very much. But what I quite enjoyed is that their promotional photo that they shared for it is a group of women sat around a picnic table having a lovely time drinking Vienna Lager, and I was like, yes, we've also got a nice...
They were having a lovely time. They could have been saying anything, but you were like, they were having a lovely time.
They're cheersing with their Vienna Lagers. Like, I was just like, not only are we going for approachability, we're also going for inclusivity in our marketing, which I loved quite a lot.
Meanwhile, what you don't know is they're all there going, cheers to work-life inclusion.
Right.
And you're like, oh, they're having a lovely time. They're having a lovely time. That would make me sad, to be fair.
Yeah,
like the idea that not the cheers to work-life inclusion, that's obviously different. I think it would make me sad, though, if that trend were accurate and they went, actually, we don't really want to do things that are... We're going to chuck out anything really that's creative in favour of more approachable things. Because I feel like one creative thing every so often is just not enough to sustain.
No, you want something exciting all the time.
Yeah.
Well, you might not get it, so you might have to deal with it.
Gonna have to get on the Vienna Lager pick.
Get on the Vienna Lager train. Number 2, ingredient provenance and the environment becoming selling points. So where a certain president might be, rolling back some environmental protections.
We're not willing to go that. We're not willing to go that political. Whoa!
This is literally cited in this article. They're concerned that that's what's going to happen. So they're thinking that brewers and farmers and suppliers are going to have to start working together to work through resource conservation and things like that. So there are a few breweries who are looking at things like this. So interestingly, the salmon safe hops came up again that we talked about a few episodes ago. So Ferment Brewing in Hood River have teamed up with Oregon Wildlife Foundation to make an IPA with salmon safe hops and malt. So that's where they're getting the ingredients and making sure that they are sustainably grown and that none of the kind of pesticides or anything, if they use any of that, probably that it's not used, and so then it's not going into the water table, so then it's not affecting the salmon. Also, Aslan Brewing in Bellingham, Washington has produced the first regenerative organic certified beer, which is an IPA made with perennial grain Kernza and organic hops.
What does that mean for the layman?
So it's a more sustainable grain, and then they used organic hops, so there hasn't been any pesticides or anything on them, which is quite a big thing in the US because they use a lot of pesticides.
They use pesticides on everything. Yeah.
So organic hops are actually quite difficult to get hold of, so that's interesting. And Brooklyn Brewery have been championing the grain fonio, which is an ancient African grain.
Ooh.
And they made a Fonio Rising Pilsner, and they collaborated with Guinness on a Fonio Stout.
Interesting.
So I thought that was interesting. I'd be interested to taste those.
Agree.
Because I tasted the sorghum Pilsner that Tolokazi made, but I'd be interested to try some different sustainable grains, so we might have to keep an eye out for those. But yes, apparently the provenance of your ingredients is going to be quite important. Now, I feel like that's something that we've been talking about in the UK for a bit, like using UK hops more and UK heritage grains and things. Like, that's not necessarily a new thing over here. I think
adjuncts as well, like a lot.
Yeah.
Like, I think I just see maybe bias from where I'm looking at and the type of things I'm doing, but like I feel like there is a lot more synergy amongst sort of like local areas providing like fruit or you know what, like working together in that regard. That's why when you said it, when you said the US, I was like, oh.
But thinking about definitely, I think brewers are thinking more about their carbon footprint and their emissions and stuff like that. Definitely, and how far away are their ingredients and can they save on that? Can they work together locally? That's definitely something that's been coming up over here. So if that's going to become more prevalent, I think that's a good thing.
I'll see if I can get those. I'll see if I can get any of those beers the next time in the US, the Brooklyn ones. Because I think if any of them, Brooklyn might be the one that's based on their like distribution and stuff. Brooklyn's probably going to be the one that I could get hands on, maybe. But I'll keep eyes out.
Number 3, trusted flagship beers will become paramount. I think this links in to the first one. So accessibility, approachability, and flagship beers. Like, I would say over here, that's more of a, like, people are making sure they've got a solid core range. So they spoke to Allagash Brewing, and they are doubling down on their flagship wit beer white, which, let's be real, is a solid beer.
It's good.
It's a banger.
Good's an understatement. Yeah.
It's a banger.
Slaps hard.
And their founder, Rob Todd, has said, we think we can be the go-to white beer at home and away. Big words, right? So
does that mean they'll import? Because I feel like they're really hard. They're not hard to get in the US, but like when you want to get an Allagash outside the US,
sometimes it can be hard to find.
It's not the easiest. So that's like, does that mean he's going to be like, let's import more?
Maybe, because that'd be great. But yeah, so the flagship beers are going to be important. Number 4, breweries will continue to expand beyond beer. I think we've been seeing this for a while. or at least
Yeah.
from a supplier standpoint, we've definitely been seeing that this is going to be a thing. So not only are breweries looking at different styles of beer, they are looking at non-beer beverages like hot waters, kombuchas, hard seltzers. Not so much over here, that's definitely an American thing, but we've been seeing that happening, I think, for a while. This article cites Tailgate Brewery in Tennessee are offering house-made hard seltzer, non-alcoholic sweet teas, and hard cider. And then Seventh Sun Brewing in Columbus is making hard seltzer, cold brew coffee, and has partnered with a local distillery to make ready-to-drink cocktails. And they're also doing hard lemonade. So, there's lots of different things that breweries can make, because as we are aware, drinking is starting. People are drinking less. People can afford to drink less, but also the younger generations aren't drinking as much as we do. They don't want to. They want to have different things. So breweries do need to think about what other avenues they can go into alongside beer.
I think Treehouse was doing cold brew coffees as well. Like when I was there, you could get, I don't know if it was theirs or maybe they just got in another cold brew coffee, but I think that they at least collaborated on it, and I could be completely wrong, but they had cold brew coffees that you could get, and I was just like, oh, that's in a can. I was like, that's blown my mind. But yeah, I think I find it interesting actually. So all these places you've cited across the first four, it feels like they've been so spread out, and I'm interested in like how they kind of went, oh, let's go to this brewery to talk about this particular product. Because that I find that interesting, how they've kind of jumped around so much to go, here's this product. But I agree that I think we've been doing a lot of that here over the last, I would argue last year, we saw a lot more hot products like hot waters and stuff coming out.
Yeah, we're seeing more. I think the hard seltzers and the hot waters got picked up in the US quicker than over here. Hard seltzers didn't do so well over here because we're more like, our people have picked up, if they're not drinking a beer, they're drinking a ready-to-drink cocktail.
Yeah, and they don't need the hard seltzer.
Ready-to-drink cocktails weren't as big a thing in the US. Like the hard seltzer kind of took that spot, whereas ready-to-drink cocktails were already a thing over here when hard seltzer came, so they didn't make a dent. So that it's interesting that ready-to-drink cocktails are now kind of coming about in the US. But there's a brewery here, Fieldworks Brewing from Berkeley, California. They are considering themselves as a beverage company now rather than a brewery, because they also do, alongside their beers, sodas, hot waters, non-alcoholic beers, and a zero-proof super tonic line. So breweries are having to completely reevaluate what kind of company they are. Interesting.
I would argue that I think the US, because of its size and the sheer scale of some of these breweries, like, and the way that their market works over there comparatively to here, from my experience, that lends itself better to the US market for that. Because I think our breweries, especially the size scale, how expensive things are, and the way people shop over here and the things they're looking for, like there's only so much above and beyond you can do at a brewery that I think the money you put into it, you'd actually see a positive output out. So like the sparkling waters or the sodas, that those kind of things do really well, or snacks would do really well. We've had like the tonics that, hot tonics and stuff. I think those things work really well. But like, I can't imagine if we tried to go, okay, well, we're going to do too many of these things above and beyond beer. Like, I just think it would end up being a lot more money was spent than made. But like, when you go to the US, you just see that, like, because the market drinks more of these type of drinks, but also like you can get away with so much more on those scale breweries, like the merch you sell. I've gone into breweries. There was one brewery in Vermont that I went into, best merch section I've ever seen. They had like pool floaties, like lilos, if I guess is what you call them over here. There's like pool floats. There was sports equipment. There was towels. There was loads of dog stuff. There was treats. There was snacks. Like there was everything you can think of with brewery branding on it they had it, and it was like, yeah, and that's not even that wild for US breweries. Like,
Yeah.
I just think like that they can afford to be doing that kind of stuff because
Yeah.
that market will buy it, whereas like it just wouldn't work over here on that same scale.
Yeah. Number 5, food is an essential tap room draw. I feel like we've known that over here for quite some time. Like, even you can be, our lovely and favourite industrial estate tap rooms. They still got to have a little food truck there.
I think food trucks are just big and popular, aren't they? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like it's the food trucks because they pair up, and that goes back to like the other point about pairing up with like local businesses and
Yeah.
stuff. They think, how can we help each other? So like, we'll host a really good food truck. That's an independent business, and they'll bring their crowd down, and we'll bring people that haven't heard of that food truck, bring them to the food truck. I think there's like we've started to take off more in food trucks over here in the last few years. So, and that's been the staple of the tap yards of the world.
Yeah. But you got to have food if you've got a tap room, and I think that's very wise. Number 6, this is one of my favourite ones. New hops and products will make more versatile aromatic IPAs. Obs. But I enjoyed that they spoke to Sierra Nevada and they said, we've been diving in to meet consumer occasion needs with a variety of hop-forward beverages that can fit a variety of moments. That was their chief commercial officer, because that sounds proper like jargony, doesn't it?
Yeah, but I feel like I was also like, well done.
Yeah, right.
I was like, you're right. You're right.
But the article cites that, an IPA is a delivery mechanism for flavour and fragrance. The bigger, the better. And brewers are going to start looking beyond Citra and Mosaic to entice drinkers at the first sniff. And they brought up Crush.
Ooh.
Newly released. I mean, it's not newly released, it's just newly named.
I've got a hop soda with Crush in it from Siren.
Have you? There you go. Yeah. And then, there's all these new and innovative products that are coming out that you'll see. We've talked about a bunch of them already. That we say new, but some of them are not that new. There's hop oils and extracts, Incognito, Spectrum, Hyperboost, terpenes are being used, thiols are being looked at. There's yeasts that can produce those kind of aromas and flavours now. Like, there's all sorts of different things.
Do you remember when thiols were all the rage? Like,
thiols are still the rage, girl.
Yeah. But like, but I don't see any beers that are really like. I haven't seen a release that's really lent hard into like we've used thiols.
I don't think they're saying it anymore.
Like, I remember there was a solid 6 months, and everyone's like, gotta get those thiols in there.
Yeah. I think it's still being looked at, but I don't think it, like, I just don't think it's being pointed out that that's the way that things are being done.
It's interesting how that works, isn't it?
Yeah. But that's your 6 industry trends.
Nice.
I don't think there was, I saw this and I was like, oh, that's interesting. But I also don't think that there's anything that was, I don't think there's anything that I didn't think was going to happen.
No, I think that all makes sense. I think the only thing I said was just like focusing on doing it kind of fits into, I think, the number 1 or number 2 that you said, which is like what I guessed would happen is that they'll start focusing on making lower ABV, like more like table and session
beers.
Yeah, the accessible beers one, but like,
and obviously
but then still doing bangers every third or fourth one would be like a big
and from a UK standpoint, because that is a US focused article, we have obviously got to think about the duty reform over here and how that affects what can be created. Like, it's all well and good saying I love a 9% beer, let's have loads of 9% beers, but when it is expensive to make and then they're not, flying out the door, or consumers can't afford how much it actually costs for the beer and for the brewery to make a profit out of it, then it's not worth it. So breweries have got to think about how they can make beers and make money.
It's funny as well looking at the different markets, because so like when you originally were saying about the accessibility, so like I got the part about making more like lower ABV beers, but like part of me was kind of like the way that my brain interpreted that as well was more about like the flavors, making approachable flavors as well. And like my prediction solely on like because of the duty and stuff, that it would have to be, in order to make those creative, interesting, higher ABV ones, it has to be supplemented. But it's interesting looking at the market, because I was doing some research into a particular beer in the US, just one of the beers that it's widely suggested as a top beer, and other people recommend it all the time, and I was researching into it, and found a post on Reddit from like 2 years ago, and it's a 500ml bottle that you can get. People were going, oh, it's $7 for a 500ml bottle. Like, that's not good value for money. And I was just like, that's wild.
Quiet. Yeah, what?
I was like, that's wild. The fact that they were like, oh my God, that's so expensive. And I was like, $7 for a 500ml bottle is expensive. Like, I was from a really good quality, and it's not like this was like they were going, oh, it's an alcohol free for like,
right, yeah,
yes, okay, it's not a big imperial stout of like double digits ABVs, but I want to say that if I had to guess, it was probably between 5 and 6 and that, 5.5 and 6.5, like that kind of range of ABV. So it wasn't like it was a bitty baby and it wasn't an imperial. I was like, a 500ml bottle of like a lovely quality beer, and you're going, oh, it's $7 for. I was like, it's funny that our perception is so different. I mean, even within the UK, you have people that are like, I had to pay £5 for a third, and it was a 12% stout, and I found that price outrageous. And you're like,
you didn't have to pay it though, did you?
What? Like, I don't know. It just blows my mind. But by and large, I think we can all agree, like, 500ml bottle for $7, in my opinion, especially for a good quality beer, is a bargain. Fine.
Yeah, I'd pay it.
I mean, I have paid it.
Yeah,
so
I paid more than that. So
I paid more than that. Yeah, hands down. Direct from the brewery, no markup. Like, I was like, yeah, right. Great.
Thank you.
Cost what it costs.
Here is my money. Thank you very much.
So should I go back onto our angering topic?
Yeah, go on then.
So the next hottest thing that the internet has been talking about has been around, and this is not strictly beer related, but my follow-up relates to it, is Meta announcing that they're going to be replacing their independent fact checkers with community notes, because they said where the and I quote, commenting on the accuracy of posts is left to users. So some of the statements that that Mark made in his lovely little post outlining the changes, like, some of the stuff he was saying wasn't wrong in the sense of like how he said things have frustrated people here, there, and everywhere. But I mean, overall, to me, it felt a little bit like it was a really good excuse to go, people are really annoyed with this, so let me do the opposite. But that's just speculation. I'm gonna try to keep politics as much of this out of this as possible. But I'm just going to read you a little blurb from Meta, because this is what is actually in the post that he made. Okay. I've got a link to the post so people can read it for themselves. But he's talking about, he said, in recent years, we've developed increasingly complex systems to manage content across our platforms, partly in response to societal and political pressures to moderate content. This approach has gone too far. As well-intentioned as many of these efforts have been, they have expanded over time to the point where they are making too many mistakes, frustrating our users, and too often getting in the way of the free expression we set out to enable. Too much harmless content gets censored. Too many people find themselves wrongly locked up in Facebook jail, and we are often too slow to respond when they do. So there's more that I'm going to read, but that right there, I don't disagree with that, right? But can someone explain to me why somebody posting about beer harmlessly is like, that's it, you've breached community guidelines? Meanwhile, somebody is threatening to throw like acid in someone's face, right. Is literally like, people are like duplicate, like spoofing other people's accounts, and you're like, this is a spoof of this other account, and you have to do blood rituals to even find the right combination to report it. And when you do, they go, I don't think it's breached community standards. You can have people on like posts about like a trans person, and they're like mispronouncing them on purpose just to be an asshole. That kind of stuff, and you report that as like hate speech and stuff, and they're like, I don't think it is. But like, that to me, I was like, I don't disagree with you, but why is it that I can't ever report the right thing? Like, if we could report the right things, that would be fine.
100%.
But yeah, I will go on to say, so it says, back in this article, it says, that's not the way things have played out, especially in the United States. Experts, like everyone else, have had their own biases and perspectives. This showed up in the choices some made about what to fact check and how. Over time, we ended up with too much content being fact-checked that people would understand to be legitimate political speech and debate. Our system then attached real consequences in the form of intrusive labels and reduced distribution. A program intended to inform too often became a tool to censor. We are now changing this approach. We will end the current third-party fact-checking program in the United States and instead begin moving to community notes program. We've seen this approach work on X, previously Twitter, where they empower their community to decide when posts are potentially misleading and need more context. And people across a diverse range of perspectives decide what sort of context is helpful for other users to see. We think this could be a better way of achieving our original intention of providing people with information about what they are seeing, and one that's less prone to bias. And they go on to say that once the program's up and running, Meta won't write community notes or decide which ones show up. They are written and rated by contributing users. Just like they do on X, community notes will require agreement between people with a range of perspectives to help prevent biased ratings. We intend to be transparent about how different viewpoints inform the notes displayed in our apps, and we are working on the right way to share this information. And people can sign up today on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads for the opportunity to be among the first contributors to this program as it becomes available. That is a big blurb about like what is happening. And then they basically go on to say about how they're like, oh yeah, the pages on Facebook, content for people's pages, like it will start being ranked based on like what you engage with and what you don't engage with. So you're going to start seeing the stuff that we like, you know, they were talking about how in 2021 they made changes so that you wouldn't see some of the political posts because people were feeling about it, they didn't want to see it. But actually, you know, now they want to see it. And so they're going to make it so that you can kind of opt for what kind of political post you want to make. So leaving the politics side of it alone, I was just like, this is what, like, to me, my first instinct was like, this is wild and a horrible idea.
Yeah. There's no way this is going to work. Of course it's going to end up being biased.
We talk about echo chambers.
Yeah, you're just going to end up with little bubbles of people all talking about the same thing. And it's going to be very easy for accurate viewpoints to be sidelined because, you know, a chunk of people will be like, no, that's not right. Like, it's going to be horrible. That sounds horrible.
Why are we allowing the general public?
Right, why are we letting like just regular people police this?
I have literally met when you talk to people that are like the Holocaust isn't real. Those are the people that are fact checking when someone's like yeah, and they're like nope, not real, fake news, and you're like, if enough of them,
like moon landing's not real, like it's a conspiracy theory. These are the people that are going to be doing this. No.
It's wild, but the whole reason I decided
dinosaurs don't exist. Dinosaurs don't exist, people. Dinosaurs aren't real.
My favourite was they put the dinosaurs in the ground. Just so that, like, the government's put the dinosaurs in the ground so that you don't believe in anything.
Right.
It's wild. Again, I'm not knocking anyone's personal beliefs, whatever, but I feel like
those people that regular people should not be in charge of deciding. I should be in charge of deciding what's accurate and not.
To me that is wild.
How do you make that transparent? You don't.
And I love that it's like you can sign up to do this, but guess what, a lot of the people are leaving Meta, so a lot of the people that are left to sign up for this
you all know what a whole like Twitter is, X, whatever you want to call it, is now.
That's it. I really appreciated that they were taking
X worked really well. I did it because everybody's left.
Yeah, they're taking their lead from X, which is funny in itself. A person that owns that who is in the back pocket of a person who purposely does not want people to talk truth. Again, I'm trying not to get political. Right. I imagine probably not a lot of people that listen to us are gonna, you know, probably massively disagree with. I mean, some people might, and I respect that, and that's fine. Like, that's cool. But like, yeah, I don't think that the average citizen should be responsible for being the fact checker. Like, that is crazy to me. And it feels like he's saying, in what I read, and we can post the links so that you can read it all yourself, because I personally felt that this was a really important one to call out, because staying informed, and it does impact us, because people are going to be going, what does this have to do with beer? And it's like, well, it does have to do with beer, because I've become acutely aware what are the alternatives if you don't want to be on any of Meta's platforms?
Like, nothing.
I signed up for Blue Sky, but I was already not on X, so it doesn't really matter. And I'm probably not really going to use Blue Sky, but that's not what I use Facebook and Instagram for. I don't have a like-for-like solution to that.
No.
Can you imagine being like, I've got to pick up my beer Instagram. Where are you moving it to?
Yeah, I don't know.
So, I mean, I asked ChatGPT for some thoughts, if you want to know what ChatGPT recommended me.
Go on then. Let's see what our AI overlords told us.
I did a Google search, but then I also was like, yeah, we'll just ask ChatGPT as well, because why not? Fun. So, social media alternatives for Instagram and Facebook. You've got X. Was like, well,
no thanks.
No. Threads, which is by Instagram. No. A website called Mastodon. I don't know. I've heard of Mastodon, but I don't know anything about Mastodon.
I remember that when Elon Musk took over Twitter and was making X, everyone was like, we're going to go to Mastodon. And then I never heard anything else about it.
Yeah, that's the first I heard of it, and that was the last I heard of it. So, I don't know. You've got Hive Social, which says it's a simple and visually appealing social network focused on personal expression. But then it says combines features of Twitter and Instagram. So I'm like, I don't know. There's something called Elo, which emphasizes an ad-free and algorithm-free experience, which I kind of like my algorithms, though, in moderation.
Yeah.
I like going on my reels and going, what are the algorithm gods going to bless me with today? And then I get some absolute bangers. Normally I get the ClickUp guys and they're doing like parody songs about HR and like I've been in a real tech swirl lately. It's so funny. Yeah, it's great. And the worst part is I understand some of it. So somebody was talking about like when your project manager like speaks to a developer or tries to take notes for the developer, and it's like Kubernetes, but they've spelled it Cuba cuties or something like that. Something like that. Kubernetes. Like, and I was like, oh, but I actually know what Kubernetes is, so it's fine. Nerd stuff. I like the algorithms for that. So did any of those? That's for your social media? No, nothing tickle you there?
Nah.
So you got Photo, which is Flickr. That's just a photo album.
I used to use Flickr like years ago.
Yeah, they won't stop emailing me. Yeah, they won't stop emailing me.
Yeah, we tried to delete our accounts and they're just like, did you really want to delete your account?
2 years ago, I was like, cool, bud. Whatever you want. Yeah. They've emailed me yesterday. I was like, I thought you were gone. Why are you still here? VSCO, I have used VSCO, and that is probably arguably the closest to Instagram, but I think arguably VSCO is more focused on photography. So it's not really going to be a like for like the beer Instagram scene. I mean, you could do that, but you'd have to be doing like artsy, visually appealing photos, not necessarily. I want to kind of go back into my VSCO and see what I've got, because I don't even remember. Snapchat is another one. I just don't feel like that's the one. And then, you've got YouTube and Vimeo. It's like,
wow.
Okay. Great. And then you've got your community-based platforms. So Reddit, Discord, and Tumblr. Reddit and Discord were the only two I could think of. But I don't think... Tumblr, I feel like that's... If I were to reopen a Tumblr, I'd be like, what year is it?
Right.
Would I still share like emo memes and stuff? I don't know. And then they've got some minimalistic focus called Vero, MeWe, and Be Real. Be Real is just post a random photo, unfiltered photo a day. And that's, I guess that's the thing that's like you're trying to show what your real day looks like.
Yeah.
Again, that wouldn't work to replace what we've got. And then it suggests on your professional and niche platforms, LinkedIn, Dribble, or Behance, or Goodreads. I was like,
Goodreads
isn't exact like. Goodreads
and
isn't
actually,
quite.
if you're looking for a book one, peeps, I'd go for the Story Graph actually over Goodreads, because also Goodreads is Amazon, so that's Bezos.
Oh yeah, but Jeffrey Bezos has my money. Even if I don't want him to, like, if you can come deliver me next day.
Go to the Story Graph. But peeps, if you're looking for a book one, the Story Graph is the one, my friends. You put all your data in and it visualizes it into lovely things for you. It's great.
All right, you got me.
Mm-hmm.
You got me with that. I only know like Goodreads because I'm like, oh, when I want to link somebody to the synopsis of a book, I'm like, here you go, here's a Goodreads link. I don't really use it for anything else. But yeah, I was like, those are really shit suggestions. And then just like, yeah, when I literally Googled what are alternatives, it was Twitter, Instagram. I was like, no, LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, Google,
Isn't
Pinterest.
TikTok on its way out though as well because it keeps getting restricted?
I don't know. I stopped using TikTok.
Yeah, I stopped using
because I don't have the patience for it.
I'm too old.
Google was one. Literally, it says Google, a search engine that Facebook has struggled to compete with. How is that? Because to be fair, I put what's a competitor,
media,
and they were like,
okay. Yeah.
Google, Pinterest. I don't even know something. Tencent X, OfferUp, Slack, which is for work things,
Yeah.
and Parler, which no, thank you. I'm good. So those are. It just led me to like reading that. Everyone's infuriated about that. I'm like, I am kind of at the point where I'm like, yeah, I agree. This is wild. He's saying all the right words, but I'm really worried about the underlying words under that. Like the justifications there-ish, but then I'm like, what's the underlying message in all of this though? Yeah. You think of what the reality of the situation is, and I'm kind of like, yeah, no, I would love to be able to go, let me migrate to something else. But the reason I shared this was because I'm very acutely aware of there really is no other alternatives except like Untappd. But like that's, you can share, like if you had I mean, we already talked about Untappd at length and why I'm moving away from that, but it's not really social media where it's like, let me tell you what I'm doing. It's just like, let me check in a beer.
Yeah. Yeah. We've become very reliant on these things, haven't we?
Yeah. I read somebody's post from earlier today of someone I'm friends with. And they were talking about how they spent, 15 plus years of their life on Facebook. And I was like, same. Like that being said, if I had an alternative, I mean, I'm not married to it. I'd happily kind of go, I guess I'll migrate. But there's nothing that even comes remotely close.
Yeah.
Will I get a point where I just go, I can't even be bothered? I don't know. But like that's how I connect with my family in the US. So it's not an easy shut it down. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it all I'm being cautious. I'm being cautious before shutting anything.
We've got to be open-minded, right? We've all just got to be like,
assume positive intent is what
and
we should be
fact
doing.
Check anything before.
Yeah,
yourself independently.
Don't fact check off of community notes.
No, because that sounds terrible.
Yeah.
Shall I do something that's a bit more upbeat?
Yeah, I'm gonna crack open another beer. I need to calm down. I need to have my stout with my CBD oil in it now. That's what I'm having, by the way. So, after that little soapbox that I had to get down off of a second time, because this is like a step. So, like, there's like 2 steps. Now I'm at the bottom, so don't worry. That's my diatribe's done. This is one that I brought back from the US, from Vermont, called Green Empire Brewing. It's called Special Brownie, and it's imperial stout brewed with hemp, aged in gin barrels and conditioned on chocolate. It is 10%. So I thought, like, get some hemp in there, we'll chill out.
Do you get the gin?
It's not actually CBD or anything like that, but still. Do I get the gin? I haven't sipped of it yet. It smells quite, like I can see where that distilled, I don't know if I would necessarily say like gin in particular, but you can kind of smell that like booze, the distilled booze in the aroma.
Yeah.
Almost a bit of coconut as well, which I'm going to guess is from the barrel, to be fair. Little bit of, it's almost a slight bit of like mapley aroma, and then like some chocolatey, like mild chocolatey notes. We'll see how it smells. Oh, mama, that's boozy. I don't know what's going on. It's a confusion of flavors. There's like definitely gin, booze, and booze. So yeah, the 10%. I've had ones that are 10% that don't taste remotely as boozy compared to this. Oh. So we'll see where we are when I present my last news article. All right, what are you drinking now?
So I've been saving this for the right occasion, and the right occasion hasn't come up. So I was just like, I'm gonna drink it.
Know that feel.
This is Fortune's Favour, which is a dark strawberry sour from Closet Brewing. Oh, it's really good.
I still have mine, so I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, drink it because it is beautiful. So it's strawberry, obviously, but then it also says that it's got toffee, vanilla, and caramel notes, which it definitely has. Like on the nose, it smells like cheesecake with strawberry compote, and then you really
Ooh.
get the strawberry, but there's this sweet background that's the toffee and the caramel. Oh, it's lovely.
I'm looking forward to having mine. It's in the fridge, and it was again same as you. I was waiting for the right moment, and I think I wanted to like pair it with something.
Yeah,
fun.
I was trying to
The
say
label's
like,
cool, but
pair it with a book or something. But as we're recording tonight, it is a full moon, so
oh yeah. What do you want to know why I know that?
why do you know that?
Because I got my Pokemon sleep app, and they were like, special event today. It's the full moon, so it's the sleep event, and I was like, nice, because it means I get 1.5 times the thing. I'm going to catch so many Pokemon. So
there you go.
That's how I knew it was the full moon.
But it is delicious. Oh, Closet Brewing do such good beers.
They
peeps.
do.
Like, if you have not bought beer from Closet Brewing, check yourself and go do some. Go buy some, because
I literally have 2 of their beers left, that being one of them, and it's just because I've been waiting, because their labels are great, the flavors are great, and I was waiting for the right moment, and then it just hasn't happened.
I have spoken to Lucy about coming on at some point, so
ooh,
we'll have to make that happen.
Yay!
Right,
I feel like more people that you spent a lot of time with last year.
Another person. Oh yeah, we came across Lucy and Lizzie a fair few times.
A lot of times.
It was great.
Yeah,
it was great. We had a good time. So a little bit more of a fluffy one. In other news, let's talk about hot cultures, beers with the most 5-star check-ins on Untappd in 2024.
Brilliant.
So I picked this one.
I get recommended these kind of things as well, and I'm like, right, save that for later.
I really enjoy hop cultures.
Agree.
Articles. I get their like weekly email that sends them through, because I do enjoy them. We also got nominated by them one year as podcast to listen to. Do you remember?
I literally forgot about that.
I'm like, how do you even know about us? What?
I completely forgot about that until you've just... Because I had a vague memory. I've been trying to... Spoiler alert. Big things coming, bro. So I was trying to put together, like, what are some of the accomplishments that we've had as a podcast.
We need to add this to the...
I need to add that. I had a vague memory where I was like, I feel like someone mentioned us before. But then in my brain, I was like, no, I think it was Beer Ladies Pod. And I was like, yeah, it's probably Beer Ladies Pod, actually. And then I just kind of, like, put it away in my memory. And when you just said that now, I was like, I gaslit myself. I didn't make that up.
Yeah, no.
I think they were also mentioned in that article, but I was just kind of going,
accomplishments.
All right.
But so they found the beers with the most 5-star check-ins on Untappd. So I thought, listeners, that you might want to use these on maybe a beer bucket list of beers that you want to try. Interestingly, I've drunk quite a lot of these already.
Well, I want to see how many
I was quite impressed, right? So I will tell you the beers and the amount of 5-star check-ins. Now, bear in mind, this article came out on the 17th of October, 2024. So the numbers have probably changed since then, but...
This is just is this global?
Global. Yeah, okay. This is global.
All right.
So, number one. Can you guess number one?
Pliny.
Yeah.
Okay, got that.
Pliny the Elder from Russian River. 7,535 5-star check-ins.
So like half of those are from the UK.
At time of recording, or time of this article going out.
It's all right.
They cite it as the first ever WIPA in the US and one of the most iconic American beers. So, you know, I feel like that sits on people's bucket lists regardless, right?
It does.
So there you go.
I just urge you, just don't break the bank trying to get it.
Like
spend within your means.
You do you, but yeah. Number 2, Heady Topper from The Alchemist.
Okay, 2 for 2 then, I've got that.
6,000.
Doing well.
Yeah, I know. 6,314 check-ins for that. Another all-American classic, they call that one. Right. Number 3. Now, I think I've had this one as well.
Okay.
Traditional lager from Yingling.
Oh, this is tough because I've had Yingling. I tend to have like the one that sticks out in my brain the most is the Hershey's one, but I feel like I am 99.9% confident I've had it, but I think this was pre my Untappd.
Pre-Untappd?
Well, because I had Untappd for quite a while, but I stopped using it for a good chunk of time.
I'm going to double check.
So I think,
second-guessing myself.
okay, now I kind of want to know if I can find it. Hang on.
Oh, yes. No, it is. Yeah, I have had it. I have drunk it before, but I drunk it before. But then also, fun story, when I was on cruise ships, I was there when we did a country charter cruise. So it was a country music cruise.
I feel like you've told me about this before.
And it was a Blake Shelton cruise, but he left us halfway through. And they invited the entertainment team up to his suite for a party. He'd already left, but he had specifically requested Yingling Lager in his suite, and there was a bunch left.
So random. That's so random.
So we were all sat around on his balcony drinking his Yingling after he'd buggered off. It was great.
That's wild. True that he's like, I must have this. Out of everything that I would have, you know what? That just says never judge a book by its cover, because I would have never have guessed that. Like I would have been like, I don't know. I probably would have gone to something more stereotypical than a Yingling. Like a Budweiser, like
right above
Bud Light.
Lone Star, mate. Right. Also, that was a cruise where we had one day at sea, and then in our first port, they had to go out and buy more whiskey because they drank us dry of whiskey in like 24 hours.
Oh my god!
And they got extra on because they knew what kind of cruise it was, and they drank us dry. Fun times. So that got 5,843 check-ins. I quite like a Yingling Lager.
I can't remember.
Yeah, it's nice. I like it.
I know I've had their beer. The problem is, like, a lot of the times when I have it, all of the times I've had it, minus the Hershey's one. Well, no, minus the time I've had the Hershey one, because I've brought that and I've had it over here. 99% of the times that I have had Yingling, it's when I've been in the US and I've been someplace and there's no, like, we're just at a restaurant and it's an option, and I'm like, okay, fine, have that. And it's not the kind of thing, because I'm not going out for beer, and it's not something I've like sought out. It would be the same. To me, it's kind of the same as like if you went to a pub and you were like, oh, I got this goose island. Like, I know it's not the same, but like similarly, I got a goose island, I'll check that in while I'm at the pub. So it's like that kind of thing. I'm not in the mindset of checking it in. Yeah.
Right, the next one. This is the first one that I haven't drunk, and I nearly had some when I was in the US last, and I missed it. Zombie Dust from Three Floyds Brewing, 5,535 check-ins at 5-star. It's an American Pale Ale, first released in 2010. It features a now well-recognised hop that had just come on the market a mere 3 years earlier, Citra, and it's only got Citra in it. It is a single malt and single hop American Pale Ale.
That's wild to be like, oh, it's ahead of its time. It's got Citra in it.
Citra.
Now you're like, can I find something that does not have Citra in it?
Right. It's 6.2% ABV, 50 IBUs.
I don't think I've had this.
Like, crazy. Have you had it?
No, I don't think I have. I've had Three Floyds. I don't think I've had Three Floyds a few times. This is not one that I've had, but it is one that has come up as a top beer and a recommended. Like, spoiler alert. So we had talked before about doing, like, you know, blogs on our top beers, like independently when we came up with our New Year's resolutions last year, our goals last year, we both were like, we're going to do stuff with top beers. And we had kind of come to that conclusion separately and approached it separately. You stuck with it to a degree. I did not that well. But then it's kind of something I want to work on this year, but like with a little twist to it as well, because I don't just want to look at top beers. I kind of want to look at like what beers people are most recommending, because sometimes that's very different to what's considered like a top beer in a book. So but this is one that has come up. I put a post out on Reddit and I've built up this lovely backlog of all these top beers that people are recommending. Bucket list beers is what we've called them. And Three Floyds has come up so consistently. This one, Zombie Dust. So Might be one I have to try to get, I think.
You have to see if you can get me one as well.
I'll see if I can find it. I'll get to, like the time I've toted back all the Julius's. I was telling someone about that the other day. I was like, I could only get 4 packs, and then I had to tote the Julius's back because I couldn't bear to leave them in the fridge in the US because I was like, I can't do it.
Next one, Best Beltran 12. Obviously, so this one's taken a bit of a dip from all the others. 3,465 5-star check-ins for Westy 12.
Interesting.
Yep, so that is a Belgian quad, if you've not heard of it. It is a Trappist ale, brewed by monks. It's up there. It is one of the rarest beers in the world.
I wanted to say it's really hard to find until you find it, and then you can't unfind it.
Yeah, you've had it so many times.
Literally. I don't understand. I went from being like, this is never going to happen, to
it's like when you're like, I've never seen a purple car, and then you just see purple cars everywhere.
That's it. You're like, do any other colour cars exist?
No, it's
everywhere. I don't think they do. Have you had yours yet?
I have not.
So you still haven't had this then?
No.
Oh, all right. Okay.
Here it is. For those that are listening, I have it in my hand.
We'll have to do an episode.
On my side.
We'll do an episode because we both have.
Yeah, we need to have
an
like
extra
my instant live reaction to it when I open it.
It's going to go one of two ways, where it's either going to be like it's been bigged up so much that you're like, yeah, okay. Like right. My reaction to flying. You're like,
it's all right.
It's all right. The most unremarkable reaction.
I understand why people enjoy it, I think is what I said.
I've said that to a lot of people where I've gone, no, I get it. It's a very high quality made beer. But people talk about it really high. So I feel like the Westy 12 is either going to be something where you go, oh, it's all right.
Right.
Or you're going to go, this is amazing. It's going to go one of two ways.
Life-changing beer. And it's on this list, so add it to your bucket list beers, people, if you haven't already. Now, I found this interesting. The next one, Duvel. Wow. 3,310 5-star check-ins.
Just the normal one?
Just Duvel, yeah.
I had somebody... Again, this came up on top, like, recommendations on Reddit as well.
I mean, I like a Duvel, don't get me wrong, but...
I do as well, but it came up as a recommendation on Reddit, and I went, just the bog standard one, or one of the, like...
Not the and they were like not the triple citra.
No, and they were like, nope, just the normal one. And I was like, oh, okay. Someone recommended Guinness as well, and I went, that's a bucket list bit, and they were like, yeah, okay,
interesting. So I thought it was interesting that Duvel's on here. I mean, it's a good beer. Would I have thought that it was up here on the list with the most 5-star check-ins?
Globally? No.
It's a Belgian strong golden ale. In case you haven't had it, it's quite a nice beer. So if you've not had it, go check it out. We're not entirely surprised by this one. Lagerbeer Hell from Augustina.
Okay.
2,714 5-star check-ins. I mean, that's like the lager, the Helles lager for the brewers, right?
Well, I was going to say, but is it like everyone's going to Oktoberfest and they're like, that's the one. Like anytime someone puts on like an Oktoberfest event, it's like.
I mean, it's not always the Helles that's there, but.
Yeah, but I feel like over here, that's the easiest one for people to get in when they go, oh, it's Oktoberfest event, like, or we're doing bottles for Oktoberfest.
I go back to my my shock and horror at the fact that it's not cited as a commercial example for BJCP styles. Like,
yeah, that was wild.
It's not one of the commercial examples. Like,
I think we expected it to be, and we were like, what?
Yeah. I was like, why is it not? Well, everyone loves it, so maybe it should be.
Yeah, rethink that, BJCP.
Yeah, come on. Next one, Focal Banger. So the Alchemists are in here twice. 2,467 5-star check-ins.
There's nothing to shake a stick at. I think I've still got a can in the fridge.
Quite like this description. So it's an American IPA, in case you weren't sure. And then they say, the Joker had Harley Quinn, Scooby-Doo had Shaggy, Batman had Robin. Even the most iconic heroes and villains had sidekicks, which is why we love seeing Focal Banger on this list. Because yes, Heady Topper is an incredible beer, but so is this American IPA that's often overshadowed by its epic counterpart. Right, so I'm going to be controversial.
Yeah.
I like Focal Banger more than I like Heady Topper.
That a lot of people, again, back to Reddit, because obviously this is going to be what replaces my Facebook and my Instagram is Reddit. Yeah, a lot of people were like, yeah, everyone talks about Heady Topper, but it's actually all about the Focal Banger. To me, they're much of a muchness.
Out of the two, when I tried the two, because you very kindly bought me one of each, I prefer Focal Banger.
Yeah, I think it's like, because I had them fresh at the brewery, to me it was like,
yeah,
not that they weren't. I've had beers that have been far more same. They weren't like same.
I was going to say, were you doing that thing where you were like, I can't remember which one it is, which hand did I have it in,
which picture,
which of these four beers is it? Because they all smell and look the same.
You're like, it's the same picture. No, there are like subtle differences, but like I wouldn't say that one in terms, like for me, I found that quality wise they were similar quality and similar taste profiles as well. So like I wouldn't say that they were like, it's not like you're comparing a West Coast to like a juicy New England IPA or something like that. It's like the Vermont IPAs, like they kind of have that blend of both coasts together. So they're both very good, very well executed. It's really funny because like Rick, we were there and Rick was like, I know that you're saying this is a really iconic brewery, and he's like, but I just like, I can tell they're very well made, but I don't like any of these.
Brilliant.
We were like splitting cans and I was the one that was having to like do the majority of the legwork, and he's like, I just don't think I like, these aren't my taste profiles. But he was like really good at being like, I can tell that they're very high quality and the business is amazing. And he was like, I just, the tastes is a no. And I was like, that's fair.
This next one I have not had. Spotted Cow from New Glarus. 2,278 check-ins. It is a farmhouse ale. And it is the brewery's flagship farmhouse ale, featuring Wisconsin malt and a bit of corn.
I have been, hilariously, when you said that, I had to go Google, because before you said Wisconsin, another person on Reddit. So I can validate that all these beers that are like the top rated beers are all ones that real people
because
have recommended me. And like, literally, it was like, if you're ever in Wisconsin, visit the brewery, because the only place you can get this beer is in Wisconsin, and it is definitely worth the trip. And like the location's really interesting and the beer's really interesting, and like it's definitely worth going to. And I was like, I have never before wanted to go to Wisconsin. Really, not in a horrible way, but it's never been like, can't wait to go to Wisconsin. And then they said that, and I was like, kind of going, oh, can I work it into a trip at some point? Like, I know it's so far away. Can I drive up to Canada and go via Wisconsin? Like, because of this beer. So
there you go.
I can vouch.
Not had it, but apparently it's up there. So add that to your bucket list. The next one is Shinerbach. 2,234 check-ins. Now, I've had Shinerbach and I enjoy it a lot.
I don't think I've had that.
It's from Texas. And for a little bit, is it TGI Fridays?
What, in the UK?
No, in the US. When I was in the US,
like wild.
I think TGI Fridays were using it in their barbecue sauce. They didn't do the Jack Daniels one. They did a Shinerbach barbecue sauce. Oh, it's good.
I'm into
good
that.
Times. Shiner also had a beer once. It was Shiner Cheer, which only came out at Christmas, and it was like, it had like a peachy flavour to it. It was so good. Like, it was like peach cobbler type.
I bet that would make really good sauce as well.
Yeah, it was. Oh, I
like a fruity sauce. I enjoy
Shiner beers. So that's the next one. And Three Floyds are in here again. Gumblehead, 2,149 check-ins, is an American wheat beer. I hadn't heard of that one.
I hadn't even
heard. The first one I hadn't heard of. Well, I hadn't heard of Spotted Cow, and I hadn't heard of Gumblehead.
I've heard of quite a few Three Floyds, never gone bombed.
Yeah, but I've not heard of that one. I've heard of New Glarus beers as well, but not Spotted Cow, so that was interesting. Apparently it's got flavours of grapefruit, lemon and peach.
Interesting.
And it uses hand-selected Amarillo hops. And then the last one is Weinstefaner Hefeweizen, which has got 2,082 check-ins.
I feel like I have had that.
Yeah, I would have thought you would have had Weinstefaner.
I think I've had a few
Hefeweizen, yeah.
And I think that is
Weinstefaner is good. Weinstefaner, very famous German brewery. If you hadn't heard of them, go check out their beers because they are delicious. But yeah, so we'll put that article in the show notes. If you want to add those to your beer bucket list, they would make. Or if you haven't started a beer bucket list, this is a good place to start because you've got lots of good beers there that you can seek out and have adventures finding.
That is, a lot. It's interesting how many of these have come up on my recommendations as well.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
I'm really looking forward to being able to write about, like, trying to find some of these beers and being able to, like, write about, like, okay, I've had this. It's recommended to me, I had it. I've tried to put myself in the shoes of the person that has recommended it with all the information they've given me. Some people give me no information. They just go, Guinness. And then I've had to be like, but what about that? And it's interesting. But I tried to do some this when I mentioned earlier in the episode about a beer that came up on the list that they were like $7 for a 500 ml. It was from one of the research that I was doing in the back end to try to get like tasting notes and try to find people's stories on it because I wanted to kind of like understand like a beer that's being made that's like one of these top beers. Okay, what's the background on that? And like, why was it made and what about it and what are people saying about it to try to kind of go, okay, now I've had it with all these feedback, positive and negative. Like, do I feel that this is something that I'd go, oh yeah, it was worth seeking out. It was worth the hoops I had to jump through to get it.
Yeah.
And some of them, they're more accessible than others. So ideally, I also want people to kind of go, this is the story of where I really enjoyed this beer. So if you want to, please do feel free to submit any of the beers that you feel should be on that top rated list, should be on your beer bucket list. Submit it to us because I know Joe's doing her own thing with top beers.
Yep.
I'm doing my own thing with top beers / recommended beers, beer bucket list stuff. Send it to us at A Woman's Brew on Instagram. And, you know, for me, if you can include a story in which you've gone, you know, I really enjoyed this one time I went here and did this thing and it was great because of these memories or whatever. Like, the more information you could give me on it, the better, because then I can kind of go and have it with that in mind. So
yeah.
Before we move on to the final one, do you want to quickly share about the hops one? Because mine might be...
Yeah, so I subscribe to a couple of different hop newsletters because, you know, where I work and whatnot. If you didn't know people, I work with hops. So, but one that I follow is Stan Hieronymus. His hop queries email is really good. And then I also follow Eric R. Sanarud, and he does hop notes. And his email today was about the 2024 USDA National Hop Report. And he talks all about some fun facts and stuff from that. But he keeps a list of what he considers the endangered hops. So if he feels that the acreage of these hops is going down too much, or it's kept at a low level so the crop isn't going to be very big, he likes to notify people because he's like, you know, if this is a hop that you like or something that you want to have in your core ranges or whatever, you need to make sure you're contracting it, because there's two different ways of how brewers and breweries can get hops. They can either have a hop contract, and then that's planned out over several years, and then that helps the growers to plan how much they're growing. Or you can do what's called a spot. So then there's hops that aren't part of contracts, and then you can just buy a chunk of what's there. If you want something consistently, you need to contract it because they might not grow enough. So if you're just relying on a spot order, there might not be enough for what you want. Or, you know, if there's an issue with the with the yield or whatever, it might not be available to you. Whereas if you're contracted, then things can be done about it.
I was just going to say that's got to be really interesting. I know that that's not the article is about in itself, but that's got to be really interesting if you're contracting hops and then something happens to the yield and you can't meet your minimum contract levels. Like that is like, I wonder how often that comes up and like what do you do about situations like that, especially with the reason I'm wondering is because obviously especially with climate change, like how hard is it to make sure that you aren't having problems there, and like how often does it potentially go wrong, and like what can you do about that? Is it completely kind of out of your hands?
There's a lot of factors.
Really interesting.
There's a lot of factors because you forward contract. Sometimes it might be that there was too much in one year, so actually there isn't enough in like say 2024 crop, but there's still some in 2022 or 2023, so it just gets replaced with that year's crop instead. Sometimes, and then also sometimes breweries decide that they forward contracted this one hop that they thought they were going to use because they were going to make this beer in bigger volumes, and then they don't. So sometimes you can end up getting hops back from people that don't want it anymore, and there can be like a jiggle. Like it depends on who you're buying your hops from as well. Some people are more flexible than others about how you can move things around. It's all a very big balance, and there are lots of factors like what's hot right now, what's new that people want, what's growing well, what isn't growing well, was there something that was there a pest that happened a lot more this year, and so growers and suppliers and brewers all kind of have to work together to make it harmonious. Yields go up and down every year, so it's, and if you like a hop but you're not buying it, it's possible that other people aren't buying it, and then it will just gradually get faded out, and then it doesn't, they won't grow it anymore. So if you like something, you've got to make sure that you're buying it. Yeah. So for example, Eric has added some of these to his list. So cashmere is down to 140 acres from 349 acres the year before. So they're growing less of cashmere. So if you like cashmere, you need to speak up. Comet is also down in acreage. Mount Hood and Mount Rainier, that are original lager style American hops, have dropped their reported acres to no acres being grown at all in Washington, and only 142 in Oregon. So they might be disappearing because people haven't bought them.
Right.
Sabro has stayed even, about 200 acres.
That checks out.
So if you like it, you've got to contract it to prove that you want to buy it, because that could start going down. Talus has also stayed at the same levels of 148 acres. So that, do you remember when Talus was first named, and everyone was like, oh, this is so amazing, this is so amazing. It was like, it's going to be the next big thing, and then you never heard about it ever again.
Yeah.
I mean, I like a Talus beer, but I know that it divides the room.
I mean, so does Sabro. But it's really funny though. It's funny that you say that, because it's like it's maintained consistency. I'm like, yeah, I kind of believe that. But then also I'm surprised because I do still see it quite not Talus, but Sabro I do still see quite a lot. So it's like interesting that, not that interesting because I can understand how it stayed the same, but it's funny that it's ended up on a report like this, because you don't put Sabro in the same like the ones that are the Mount Rainier and the other one, like I'd never heard of that before. Comet, I hadn't really, I think I've probably had it, but it's not stuck out in my brain. Sabro, I can name so many beers that have Sabro, so that's interesting that like it's in the same report.
But are they beers that are being made again and again, or are they,
I think it's just a lot of like one-off. I think it's a lot of one-off beers are being made.
Is that Sabro. People going through a bunch of Sabro that they bought?
Oh, that's true. and everyone
haven't used.
I wonder how much of that is like the market saying though, like you should hate Sabro. You should hate Sabro.
There's different
if you're cool, you won't
factors,
make a pumpkin beer, and you won't make beers with Sabro in it.
So you might be seeing Sabro beers because people are getting rid of what they got in the cold store.
Guess what, guys? It's hip to be square. You don't want to be popular anyways. Make those pumpkin beers and brew those beers with Sabro.
Yeah. And for the second year in a row, Triumph had no acres in the hop report.
Oof.
So that might be on its way out as well. But I thought that was interesting to talk about acreage and how, you know, I really like Cashmere and I really like Sabro, but if people aren't brewing with it, like it might go and make room for other ones.
What do you do when you have a year that you're like, okay, you know, Triumph's not had any acreage? Like, can you just kind of like, how long can a hop go without being planted and then harvested before it's kind of like we'll never do it again?
If the variety is still about, it must be being grown somewhere. It might just be being grown in such a small amount that it's not being commercially sold.
Is it kind of like 1 year you don't grow it and that's it, you're done?
I mean, if you scrubbed out all of the plants and there was nothing left, you'd have to start again. Like, where are you getting this it from? Yeah. Like, usually a hop grows from a rhizome. Not, you can do it from a seed, but there's more like it takes a long time to build up those. You know, a hop that is growing a good yield. When you first start growing it, you're not going to get a lot on it. There's not going to be many cones on it. It takes a few years to get a good yield out of the plant.
That's really interesting.
You know, if there's none at all, it's probably being grown in a small amount, but probably not enough acreage to be in the report. Like, if it's completely gone, then if they've got not, well,
surely they'd be like, it's gone, as opposed to
yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I find it the most interesting that Sabro and Talus are listed amongst some of the others because Cashmere as well. But like Cashmere, I feel like I don't see as often.
I don't see a lot of Cashmere. I really like Cashmere.
When I see it, I like it.
Yeah.
But I don't see it often. Sabro and Talus, I don't see as much anymore. Like it, again, like Thiles, it was like Talus, and then you just don't see it anymore.
Right.
Or it's not really marketed, and then like you look at the can, and you go, oh, there's Talus and that. You're like, it's not quite Sabro, and you're like, oh, it's Talus. But the Sabro, I think, is the one that's the most interesting to be on that list for some of the others. But again, as you said, something that as a person that doesn't work in hops, my brain goes, oh yeah, that's bizarre. But then when you say to me, oh, actually, like, is it someone that's contracted and has all these hops that are left over that they haven't been using? So now they're like, guess I got to use them. I'm like, yeah, okay, that does make more sense.
Yeah. Ingredients are interesting, people.
I feel like we could do a whole episode on just that because that is interesting in itself. Right, I mean, we could end with mine because that was all doom and gloom-ish.
Yeah, tell us about your weird one.
Yes, it's weird. Like, I don't know how to. I feel like I've hyped it up too much.
Yeah,
now,
you have.
But this is one that like Rick and I both independently had it recommended to us on, like, you know, when Google sends you like you might be interested in this. Like, Rick started getting beer marketing to him all the time. So like every so often, he came in the other day and he's like, oh, did you see this article that's about like the women taking over the beer industry? And I went, yeah, I did see someone posted that. I was like, I know some of the people in there.
One.
Yeah, and he came in.
Yeah,
and
Gordon sent me that.
He's like,
as well.
I've just been reading Time Out about this, and he's like, this and he's going through, this person, like, who that is, and this person, okay, you know who that person is, this person, and I'm like, every single way he's reading it out to me, like, oh,
Gordon was like, Gordon was like, literally sent it to me yesterday. He was like, oh, I've just found this article. I think you'll be interested in. And I'm like, yeah.
I was like, I've already seen it. That's cool. But as he's reading the names out to him, like, you've met that, like, you know that person.
You know that person.
And then he's like, oh, okay, that's right. And I'm like, yep. But yeah, so this was one that was recommended to us like last year. And you know how I said to you, every time I find an interesting article, I will just add it to a spreadsheet and we will go and we'll look at some of the, like when we have these episodes, I'll just pull from that. But then I always end up finding new ones. So this has sat here for quite a while and today is the day. So my article is about Monster Energy, as in Monster Energy drinks.
The drink. Yeah.
So like Monster Energy drinks.
Yeah.
So this article was written April 2024, talking about Monster Beverages, the energy drink company, having acquired Canarchy craft beer platform back in January of 2022 and a $330 billion deal, making their first move into alcoholic beverages.
Okay.
So that in itself, not that weird, right? But then the article states that as part of the original deal, when Monster took ownership of Canarchy's brewing brands, this is direct quote, these included Cigar City, Oscar Blues, Deep Ellum, Perrin Brewing, Wasatch Brewing, Squatters, and Wild Basin Hard Seltzer. Does any of that sound?
Cigar City. I love Cigar City.
Yeah, this is since 2022. I did not know that.
No.
And basically it's saying after the acquisition, they then laid off the brewmaster at Cigar City in February. I'm unclear if that was in 2022, 2023 or 24.
This is why I can't get...
I'm guessing it was 24 because the article was like in February.
Yeah.
They laid him off. And the worst part is, this is right before his 16th anniversary of brewing.
This is why I can't get Maduro Brown Stout, Maduro Brown anymore. I love that beer.
Yep. And basically what was stated as well was like the acquisition was kind of, it gave Monster access to the, like why they might want to buy it is it gave them distribution networks, manufacturing capabilities and a variety of brewers. So that's probably why they wanted to make the move. But I want to share this because I had literally no idea. The other ones I was like, never heard of them. But I was like, Cigar City and Oscar Blues. I was like, what? And Rick said the same thing because I think when we found it at some point,
is my favourite American IPA.
The article does talk about Jai at one point as well. They still are making it. I think that might be one of their higher sales ones. But they've even like started making Monster alcohol drinks.
Oh.
It's just wild, absolutely wild. But it was the Cigar City and Oscar Blues that I was like, I had literally no idea. And that's why Rick, he was like, did you see this article? I was like, yes. I was very confused. And he's like, Cigar City,
maybe
Siren made the CCC beer with it. And I was like, yeah, I know.
Yeah, maybe they saw the mustard beer and that's what
Oscar Blues, you did us dirty by that interesting collaboration.
They did.
But yeah, so I guess we can end on that interesting. How do you feel about that? How's it leaving you feeling? Shook?
It makes me sad.
You feeling shook? Because I was feeling shook.
This is why I can't get these beers that I was like, I haven't seen these beers in ages. Why can't I get these beers? Oh, that's why, because they got bought by me.
And I have held on to this for so long, just trying to like wait for the right news episode. Yeah. We do these too few and far between, so maybe we need to have one that we like dig into the vault and I can share all of the weird ones that I've seen over the years with you that are now out of date but still interesting.
This is how that guy felt when I told him that Brooklyn wasn't independent anymore.
Yeah, and I'm telling you Cigar City and Oscar Blues, no girl, they're
I think Monster. Cigar City got bought by somebody else a while ago. I think I was in denial about it.
There's the report as of 2024, April 2024. Sad times. Anyways, that's it. That's all we have for you today.
Okay.
Sorry for the rant. Sorry for
breaking news.
The political rants and the normal rants. But I tried to end with something fun. So, sorry, not sorry.
Tori, if people want to submit beers for your beer bucket list, how can they get hold of you?
I would love that. Please submit the beers and submit if you can. I've had people be so specific as well of like, you have to have this beer in this place at this time in this. Like, please submit me as specific as possible of like what beers are like the must try beer bucket list, what makes you excited to talk about beers, excited to promote this particular beer, anything that you feel is like must be sought out. If you see it, don't walk away from it, buy it and try it. Any of those beers or scenarios in which you have to drink those beers, or even share a story about why, memory-wise, it's your favourite one. I would love to add it to my list and work through it and try it myself. So you can find me on Instagram at adventures_in_hoptimism, at least for the time being. Or you can email me at adventuresinhoptimism@gmail.com. I have the blog and everything, but I will say now I am working on refreshing it. So I'm hoping to bring you a new blog in 2025. Hopefully before the end of the month, but it might be into February. So keep eyes peeled for that. I also signed up for Blue Sky as Hoptimistic because Adventures in Hoptimism was too long and then I couldn't work out a good way to cut it down. So I just went with Optimistic and it was still available. So I am on Blue Sky there, but I don't really post there yet. We'll see how I get on. If enough people follow me, maybe I'll post. If you want to follow both of us, I did the exact same thing and I made a Women's Brew pod on Blue Sky, so you can follow a Women's Brew pod there. Again, neither of us are actively posting yet, but encourage us. Or you can find us on Instagram or Facebook at A Women's Brew, or you can email us at awomensbrewpodcast@gmail.com. Or we will also have a new website up and running by the end of this month, I'm willing to commit that to a deadline. So
spoilers.
I want people to know I'm excited about it. It's breaking news. I got to do it on the breaking news. But it's not ready yet. I will share it when the time is right and it's done. I'm working on it. It's a learning curve, but it's fun. Joe, where can people recommend you the top beers for your blogs?
Oh, right. Recommend me your top beers because I'm working through them in my journal. You can get hold of me. I am on Instagram as Love Beer Learning. Or you can come to my website where I did start writing some blog posts about it, but then I stopped. But there are a few on there, a few recommendations on there of beers you should try. And that is lovebeerlearning.co.uk. Or you can email me, lovebeerlearning@gmail.com. All right, I'm going to go and finish this lovely sour.
Wow.
This is the end of our news broadcast.
Cheers.